Hi everyone. This is a presentation from the University of Mount Union's Huston-Brumbaugh Nature Center. My name is Adam Zorn and I am the Program Manager for the Nature Center. And I'm going to be providing you with an introduction to insects. What do you know about insects already? You may know that there are a lot of insects. In fact, half of the world's described species are insects. They come in all different shapes, sizes, colors. They can be found in nearly every corner of the planet. But what do you really know about insects? Do you know an insect when you see one? We'll help you figure out whether any organism with legs that might fly in front of you or crawl up a tree or run across your sidewalk, if it's in fact an insect or maybe something else. To start, insects have exoskeletons. An exoskeleton is basically a skeleton on the outside of the body. Now, insects are not alone. In fact, many different types of organisms have exoskeletons. An exoskeleton is a really light but tough and waterproof skin. To identify an insect, the first thing you should look for is whether the organism has three body parts. Now, all three body parts are not necessarily easy to locate, but upon closer inspection, you should be able to find a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. The head is where you will see eyes, antenna, and maybe even a mouth. The thorax, which is the middle segment of the body, is where the legs are attached and where, if the insect has wings, those wings will be attached. And finally, the largest and oftentimes most notable part of the insect's body is the abdomen. And this is where many of the organs of the insect reside. Now, insects do have 6 legs, so that's one easy way to recognize whether an organism is in fact an insect or perhaps something else. Take this beetle, for instance. If you count the legs, you'll notice there are in fact 6 legs. Now, spiders have 8 legs. That's about 2 legs too many, so spiders are not insects. All insects have a pair of antennae. Antennae are very important for insect communication. Some antennae are really long, like the ones you see here on the butterfly on the left and the scorpion fly on the right. However, other insects may have very small and nearly unnoticeable antennae. Insects usually have pretty large eyes, and they typically have just 2 large eyes. Here are some examples of dragonflies who have some of the largest eyes in the insect world. Dragonflies are very good at detecting prey using their vision, which explains why their eyes are so big. But as you look at the other photographs in this presentation, you notice that these other insects also have eyes. Some of them are very well camouflaged. Even if they're large, they oftentimes can be difficult to see. Some insects have wings and can fly, but not all of them. A great example would be the cicadas that we will find in the late summertime, or periodic cicadas, which will arise in our area every 17 years or so. A common insect that does not have wings would be like this earwig that's photographed here. Many insects are easy to see. They're oftentimes brightly colored. Some, like butterflies, are not only brightly colored, but they can be exceptionally large, which also makes them easy to see. And these things, like butterflies, tend to move slowly, and they tend to perch and land in places where we can observe them pretty easily. Moths can also be brightly colored. This is a Luna moth. Now, the Luna moth would be very well camouflaged had it decided to land somewhere in a tree and up in the tree canopy on the green leaves. But here in this location, against a very dark background, we can see how boldly colored and patterned this moth is with its false eye spots. Now here's a whole set of organisms, insects specifically, that are brightly colored. We have bees. Many bees are boldly colored. What do you think the reason is behind that? Could it be so that we notice them and leave them alone? It's probably a good reason. And sometimes caterpillars are brightly colored as well, especially ones like this that can make you itchy if you were to pick them up and handle them roughly. Black and white is another bold color pattern that's meant to be seen and is oftentimes serves as a warning. A lot of insects use camouflage to hide. This is a katydid hiding amongst the green leaves of a plant. During the day, katydids will rest and stay out of sight, and once the sun goes down in the late summer, they will come out and commence their evening chorus. Do you see an insect in this picture? There's one in there. It's near the center. It looks a lot like the other sticks that are also in the photograph. This is a stick insect, probably one of the most famous insects as far as their camouflage is concerned. They can be very difficult to find. What do you see in this photograph? Do you see a moth? Do you see two moths? There are in fact two moths in this photograph. There's one in the center, and there's a much smaller one down in the bottom right corner. These moths have excellent camouflage. This may be an unfamiliar insect. In fact, it is only partway through its life cycle. This is the larva of a caddisfly. There are two caddisflies in this photograph. The very long, large one has made a case in which it lives in and it drags around. When it, just like a turtle or a hermit crab, when it becomes frightened, the caddisfly can pull itself all the way inside of its case and hide. There is another smaller caddisfly in the center of the photograph. The case on the smaller caddisfly is actually made of very small stones and pebbles. It serves the same purpose. Some insects actually make their own camouflage out of leftover bits and pieces of the things they've been eating. This is a lacewing larva. Those large pinching mouth parts in the front of its body are used to disable its prey. After it's done eating what it wants to eat, it throws the leftovers on its back. And that's how it explores and walks around the world, basically looking like a six-legged moving pile of garbage. But this is how it stays safe. It camouflages itself, makes itself look like something that's unedible, and that's how it sneaks up on its next unassuming prey. Now, what does this look like? Many insects actually use a disguise to protect themselves. If you're wondering if this might be bird poop, you're not alone. A bird could easily assume the same, but this is actually a caterpillar. What a great disguise. Another disguise that's oftentimes used in the insect world is mimicry. So this is a picture of a honeybee on the left and a fly on the right. They look pretty similar to each other. If you know anything about honeybees, you know if they're handled roughly, they might sting. But what about the fly? Can it sting? No, it doesn't sting. But if you were to look at them quickly and only take a very short glance, you may just as well leave that fly alone because it looks a lot like the honeybee who can sting. Here's another example. We have a bumblebee on the left, and we have another fly on the right. Of course, bumblebees can sting. The fly on the right cannot sting. The fly on the right is pretty harmless unless you're another insect. This is a species of robber fly who will fly after and catch other insects. But it needs to be able to take care of itself too. And so its appearance as a bumblebee probably protects it from larger predators like birds. So what did we learn about today? Well, we learned that insects have exoskeletons, and an exoskeleton is basically a skeleton on the outside of the body. Insects have three body parts: a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. Insects have 6 legs. Often they have 2 large noticeable antennae. Many insects have large eyes. Many can fly, but some cannot. Some insects are easy to see, but many have very good camouflage to hide or disguise themselves. So you should go outside and look for insects. The weather is warming now, and it's a great opportunity to explore all of the incredible insects that live around us. If you have questions about insects, maybe perhaps an interesting insect that you have found and you would like to know more about it, we might be able to help. Feel free to call us or email us at the Nature Center. And you may also share photographs and information with us through our social media pages. Thanks for listening, and have a great time exploring, looking for those insects.